Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Straight Line Motorsports GT3 Championship here, round number 4 at Dragon Trail Seaside. I'm your host and commentator for today's pro race, SLM_RRDZ, and today we have just concluded the pro race, which was won in the hands of Dude after dominating it for the last 50 minutes of this race. But now our heads turn to the faster pro competition, and I am actually very, very excited for this because a lot has happened since Fuji, of course, and of course Mushalat sends the championship standings my way, and of course since we have had the since we've had. Hold on one second. Let me send the live stream to the Discord. A lot has changed since the last race at Fuji, and one of them is a new pro championship leader, and you're looking at him right now. SMM Ure in the Side Max Motorworks S77 Audi LMS as won at Fuji, and on top of that has taken the lead of the pro championship. And of course, I always love these deliveries of these cars. Obviously, it's like, it reminds me of the Audi Sport colors with the black and the kind of dark reddish maroon style kind of color. But of course, you know, he's always a good driver, of course, and of course he leads the championship by a single point, obviously, which over the competitor of this man, SLM Palmer, who has since then switched to the BMW M6 GT3. Palmer, with 3 consecutive podiums in 3 races, is looking to make it 4 for 4 podiums here today in the Straight Line Motorsports GT3 Championship. And then also in 3rd place as well, Swift in the 95 Mercedes AMG GT3, a very, very quick driver indeed, also has a win to his credit as well, and of course is looking to bounce back after a tough race from Fuji, and of course try and convert to a race win. He sits 9 points behind Ure in the standings, and of course he will be looking to try and gain some variable ground up. Another racer who I've not seen on the track so far is Elliot Fageter, so I'm not sure what happened to him, but hopefully he will make it back onto the track. So another interesting development, Ben L85, who usually runs Lexus, is now in the Supra GT3. So switching over from the Lexus to the Toyota, still in the same category of brands, but of course he has now switched over to the Supra GT3, which inside the car, I've not seen the inside of the car, looks amazing. So it looks like an actual GT3 car, so to me it looks amazing. So we'll be looking out for, once again, hair raiser in one of the Costa sponsored Honda NSX GT3s, as he will be looking to make some serious points up. He's unfortunately 10th in the standings, so he is looking to try and get some points up there. James Head, who is currently 5th in the standings, he is hoping to try and leapfrog Elliott in the standings. So qualifying about to start. Doug Barrow now in the 13 sister Honda NSX, and qualifying about to start. TIGSR, I'm back. And Elliott says he was not racing today, so that is an unfortunate set of circumstances for him. And unfortunately, we will be continuing to move on. Also, another interesting thing, Raira, you may remember him from the Pro-Am race at Fuji. Yes, he is immediately promoted to the Pro category for his immaculate pace, of course. So he will be running the 270 Lamborghini Huracan GT3, of course. And that thing looks very, very much sinister. I like the side decal of the car, obviously. And then, of course, the return of K&K Dot in the sister Side Max Motorworks Audi in the 04. So he will be looking to make up some ground. So he'll be looking for some ground to make up from Suzuka, of course. Doug Barrow once again in the 13. Hair Razor, James Head, and Swift. Of course, they'll be looking to make up some points in this championship. Ure now, and then Ben L85, who these guys have wanted to wait out for qualifying. So we're gonna see what happens here. So no one's already dead to the chicane, which is a good thing. We don't want that to happen. Oh. And the dreaded commentator's curse has stricken me already. Oh, future me, I apologize to James Head. Right, so first set of flying labs coming in, well, not coming in, about to start, and Palmer in the BMW M6 will be leading in the way. TIJS Rip James. Elliot saying, wanted new commentator. Well, isn't that nice of you, Elliot? So, TIJS says, James, it's James. Reason, reduce commentator curses. Oh, I'm gonna get a hefty penalty for myself. So, right. Back up to the qualifying now. Palmer now rounding the tight hairpin of before Sector 2 ends. And of course, I do not want to give any more commentators curses than I already have tonight, so I'm praying that everyone makes it through there. Oh, and Palmer almost putting a foot wrong there in the BMW. Ryra in the Lamborghini, which is a very, very good car here around here for this circuit. Anyway, he can drive it very, very fast indeed. So the first wave of flying labs coming in now. What will the benchmark be for Palmer? As he sets a 38.8. Ryra with a whopping 37.4. That is a quick time right there. And K&K Dot with a 38.5. Doug Brown with a 38.7. Hair Razor with a 38.8. Swift with a 137.9 as he jumps into second behind Ryra. And, of course, bottom half of the field now. Ure, the next one to cross the start-finish line. And what will he do in the Cymax Motorworks Audi? And he can only muster third, 93,000 behind Swift. And what else can do? Ben L85 hopping into fourth. That's a good lap indeed for him. And who is that at the bottom right there? That's James Head, who I assume crunched the chicane again? Really now? Wow. So that is not a good day for him. Elliot says, I'm just joking. We all appreciate the time you spend us commentating. Elliot, aw. I appreciate the compliments, of course, for this championship. Oh, and that's a big spin for Ryra. I'm not sure what happened right there, but he's picked up some massive damage right about there. Oh my goodness me, that looked like a Formula One spin right there. Oh my God. So I'm not sure what happened. The man on pole was spinning quite dramatically quick, so we're gonna have to see and wait what happens. Oh, and Swift's gone into the chicane of some sort, or he might have had some contact right there with he might have had a contact moment with Ryra. And KK Dot moves into second with a 37.6. Doug Barrow into sixth with a 38.6. So the Honda's having a tough day, of course. And Ryra is going to hop into the pits as Swift will begin another flying lap. Ure right now coming across the start finish line. What can he do in the Audi? And he hops into second with a 37.5. So he's only about just under a tenth and a half behind Ryra, who is now on newer rubber. So. Oh, and KK Dot's gone around, and he's picked up an instance somewhere. or a bit of damage somewhere. James Head moves up into 6th place, so a good run for him. And surprisingly for me, Palmer has had a surprisingly difficult session in this race. And the same can be said for Hair Razor, which I imagine, has he put a lap in yet? Yes, he has put a lap in. Yuri now on as a flying Sector 1. He's the fastest man out of Sector 1. A 32.8, so that's a very good first sector for him, of course. So we'll keep an eye on Yuri on board with the Spaniard right about now, with his teammate just barely ahead. Oh, and so much commitment required through that chicane right about there. Can Yuri get on the toe of his teammate to try and help him out a little bit? So a very good, that's a very good corner for Yuri. Can he pop into pole position? No improvements this time by. He's got his teammate to help him out. It's going to be pole position. No improvement by 37 thousandths of a second. That is extremely close between all of these guys. Ben L85 with a 38 dead, as he can only muster 5th place. Swift last time by, no improvement. So, and James Head still in 6th. And the top 6 only covered by 3/4 of a second. So, very tight racing, and the top 4 only by half a second. So, and the top 3 only by 2/10 of a second. So, incredibly close qualifying for all of these guys. And Ryra, do not count this man out. He knows how to absolutely drive the crap out of anything, and the Lamborghini is no exception. The Lamborghini is very much in fine form here today over the Audis, and especially for championship leader Yuri. And I imagine K&K Dot is going to try and go for the left. Has he had a terrible sector somewhere? Yuri with the fastest flying sector, a 30.4 in Sector 2, so that is a flying lap. And Palmer moves in the 4th now in the BMW with a 37.7, so a good performance for him. So what can Yuri do? He's got about 1 more lap after this one for this qualifying lap, and I imagine he's had a tough sector somewhere. Ben L85 with a 38.053, so not an improvement much by last time. Only 7 thousandths of a second improvement. And Swift can only muster 5th in the Mercedes, and James Head in 7th place, only 60 thousandths of a second behind Ben L85. So most of these guys in the top, so you got the top 3 now, all in that one shot. Oh, and Ryra's got a foot wrong, maybe, and he's going to the gravel trap. Oh, and he's had an incident, and that's going to be day done for him. So the man on pole, once again, having another tough lap, and unfortunately that will be day done for him. Oh, and Yuri's super close to the wall. Look at how close he is. Just absolutely driving the crap out of the Audis. Just trying to gain what little there is with 0.3 of a second left. And Doug Barrow only can muster 8th. The Honda is struggling massively on straight line speed, and can only muster 8th and 9th, which is back of the grid. And Palmer will finish the lap right there. And Yuri with a 37.5, but it is not enough for a pole position by 90 thousandths of a second. And no improvement for K&K Dot either. So who's coming across the start-finish line now? James Head now. No improvement there. So Qualifying is over. Only one improvement on that lap, and it is in the hands of Yuri on that last time by. But it is now time for the start of the race. So 9 cars here for the start of the race. Ryra, Yuri, KK Dot, Palmer, and Swift make up the top 5. Ben L85, James Head, Doug Barrel, and Hair Razor make up the rest of the field. So 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights, and they are out. Oh, no, not entirely. And now they are out, and a great start for KK Dot, who nailed that start dramatically, and he's going to take the lead of this race just on the start alone. Yuri dropping a position, and he might drop another one to the hands of Swift. Can Swift hand one to the inside, maybe? Oh, and a massive dive bomb by Swift. Oh my God, who takes 2 positions on the start? What an impressive dive by Swift on the inside from 5th on the grid to 2nd out of the first corner. What a dive that was. And Doug Barrow, what a dive he's had for the start of this race, as well as his teammate. And Yuri and Ryra, who's dropped down massively from 1st to 3rd. So, a dramatic start to this race as K&K Dot in the Sister 04 Sidemax Motorworks Audi R8 has jumped the field, and Swift, with the dive bomb of the century, has made a move stick. And that's what makes this man insanely quick in this Mercedes. So on board now with Lamborghini of Ryra. Don't remember that the chicane takes no prisoners. Oh, and Swift getting very squirrely on that Mercedes right there, keeping it straight. And it looks like everyone made it cleanly on through. We will just do a quick damage check. And no casualties, of course, which is always a good thing. K&K Dot still leads the way in the 04. Ryra now applying the pressure. Oh, and Swift goes to the inside for the chicane. Ryra is going to move to the outside. We're just going to quickly turn to the inside. Can Ryra dive one down to the inside? Oh, and Yuri's got the defensive pressure from Doug Barrow in the Honda. And the Honda might be looking really good on race pace. And there goes another move. Another position down for the championship leader, and this is turning tables for Yuri, who is dropped back massively out of his 2nd place starting position. And all of a sudden, Yuri's got to defend from Palmer right now in the BMW, who is going to have to do something to try and not lose another position. And these 3 Hair Razor, Ben L85, and James Head, all having difficult races. So this is going to be extraordinarily difficult for these 3 guys at the back of the grid. K&K Dot still. Oh, and Ryra, can he fake one down to the inside? Oh, and he's a bumper whiz away, but Swift does a good job at defending that position. Doug Barrel also with a good pass. He started up in 8th, and all of a sudden on the 2nd lap has moved himself up into 4th. So that is an impressive start right there for one of the Hondas. That did not look good. Oh, and he's got squirrely, and it's allowed Yuri to potentially close the door and get alongside and easily pass him. And as Swift casts the barrier, oh my goodness me, Swift has caught the barrier, and the chicane 3 wide, and Swift now from 2nd all the way down to 6th. So that's a dramatic, that is controversy and drama for the man 3rd in the championship. And he has got to try and find some ground to make back up within this race. And they're right there. Yuri now back up into 3rd, so he's going to try and look up to. He's going to try and look forward now to get away from the people behind. Ryra all of a sudden is now catching K&K Dot at an alarming rate, and he's doing so with a 37.996. So already hot lap qualifying mode is engaged for most of these drivers. Yuri now doing a good job. Oh, and he gets a little squirrely out of the corner, I think. So Yuri doing a good job to save that car, of course. And Yuri is going to be on an absolute tear right now in that side max Motorworks 77 Audi to try and make some lost ground. Oh, and he almost gets a foot roll. Oh, look at all these cars exiting the chicane like it's Tokyo Drift Deja Vu style, or Initial D Deja Vu style, of course. No copyright claims, please. So Doug Barrow still in 5th. Palmer has done a good job to get that BMW back up into 4th. Oh, there's a bit of dirt kicking up somewhere. Ryra in the 270 Lamborghini. Still doing a good job at trying to close the door to K&K Dot, who is also a pretty quick driver in the sister 04 Audi. Oh, and Swift is going to try and apply pressure. His hair razor's now on the back foot of these guys. Ben L85 and James Head still trying to make up some lost ground. On board now with the Toyota Supra. And this car being homologated in effect this weekend, so going to be good to shine some light on a new potential program for these cars, obviously. So let's look down the field. Any changes to be made? Not entirely. Except this battle right now for Swift, who is having to withstand a lot of pressure from the Costa Hondas, and Swift might have be able to force the move himself past the 13 of Doug Barrow. But what can Harris do to back his teammate up as he's closing up dramatically and quickly as well, right inside as well. Perfect defense move for Doug Barrow in the 13. But Swift with the switchback, can he make a move? Possibly. He might be able to send it on the inside of this corner, which is a very, very tedious corner to overtake as well. And he does so very, very nicely indeed. I think Doug Barrow might have backed out of that one. And so these guys not giving each other any bit of breathing room, of course. But now let's take a look at this battle as Ryra has closed the door to under half a second now between the top two leaders right now. I told this pro race is going to be very, very intense indeed for a lot of these guys. Of course, these cars powered by V10s. Oh, Kiki gets a little squirrely out of that corner. This chicane is always going to be dicey no matter what. Oh, that's a very, very good exit right there. Oh, what a save right there. And K&K Dot now going to go to the inside to defend. He's going to go right along the edge of the track. Going to force Ryra to the outside. And that's a good defense move right about there. Oh, and KK Dot. And he's just able to hold on right about there. And Ryra is still doing a good job. He's going to flick one to the inside. Hopefully to get an over-under on the chicane right about here on K&K Dot. He takes the lead briefly, but K&K Dot is going to take that lead back, of course. And while all this is happening, this is allowing Yuri to catch up at an alarming rate. The championship leader trying to make up some lost ground from the race start that he had. He's trying to get that second and probably try and convert into a race win if he can. Palmer now in the BMW, trying to make up some lost ground on board with the 24 BMW of Palmer. So, of course, I'm pretty sure you saw, one, there was the hit that Yuri had on K&K Dot, and two, there was a massive spin going out of the final corner. Well, it looks like everyone got sideways. It looked like Palmer got involved, Ryra got involved, and Yuri all got involved. But I'm not sure of what happened to K&K Dot. So, because he is now back in the lead, and I see a very toasted left side tires for a lot of these guys. And this has allowed Palmer to close up as well. However, these guys are 1.4-ish seconds off of K&K Dot. And so Yuri still having to lead a train of cars. You can see the massive damage that Yuri has on the front of the car. Oh, and Yuri's going to the wall! Yuri has bit one of the prisoners. He has bit the dust. And all of a sudden, Yuri, the championship leader, has gone into the chicane. And it has bit him with a big bite and big effect. Oh my goodness me. And there is more drama to be had. And unfortunately for Yuri, he has got a lot of work to do to catch back up into this race. Oh my goodness me. And the race with only about the chicane is just, especially with the chicane right there, it's catching a lot of these guys, experienced guys, off guard as well. And of course, it has caught Yuri with big effect as well. He's only lost about 5 seconds off of the leader, so he hasn't lost too much time, but he is still within striking distance to try and close back up to some of these guys. And Palmer has all of a sudden moved up into second place. So, Bullheads 579R says everyone is bidding it in the chicane of death. Not everybody, but you know, it comes and it goes. Basically, it's just like you don't know who's going to do it. Obviously, it's just going to be very. Oh, and Ryra gets a nasty hit to the wall. And you can see the front end damage of Yuri's car. He has a lot of scrapes and bruises on that Audi R8 LMS. And so Ryra has moved it back up into third. The man on pole position is looking to try and get some ground back up. Of course, Yuri having the fastest lap of the race. He's doing quite the performance right now to try and get back up that lost time. Still, 5.5 seconds off of the leader, which is his K&K Dot, which is his teammate. But he is 2.5 off of Ryra, and if he could try and get back to him as well, that would be very exceptional indeed as well. And James Head has lost a considerable amount of time to the guys up front and to the guys he was chasing as well. Hairraiser brings up the knife. And Ben L85 in 7th. I'm surprised to see, and I'm going to be completely honest with you. I thought Swift, he would be a bit higher up into this race. I'm actually very surprised that his car is genuinely struggling for this course. Might be because of the fact that it's understeer and these long engine bay cars do not suit it very well, but as there's a pass made by Ben L85, and these cars just generally struggle in a lot of these sweeping S's sections right here in the sweeping corners. So, and it's allowing some of these mid-engine cars that can corner very more efficiently than the Mercedes, for example, to be able to establish position. And a pass for Ben L85 in 6th to try and be able to get back up there. So let me go down the list of race winners for you guys. Here's in the Pro Championship C if we can get a new pro race winner here today. So, nope, I have the guest over here. So, Elliot Bagginer not participating today. Swift, who's all the way down. Oh, is that Swift getting a little sideways? I think it was. Yes, it was indeed. And a yellow flag for something. Who has gone around? Oh, and it's Ryan, the man on pole position, has gone around out of the turn before sector 2. Even starts, and oh my goodness me, and it's allowed Ure to catch back up, Doug Barrett to get another spot, and Ben 85 to finally move into the top 5. But oh my goodness me, there is more drama to be had. And it's not just the chicane that these people are bidding it on, and sometimes it's these corners that these guys are bidding it on. So, just a lot of drama and controversy to be had within this championship. So, and KK Dot, all of this is not looking back and is still leading. So going back to the list of race winners, we have Swift, who won in Suzuka in round number 2, and then Ure, who's the man in 3rd, who had won at Fuji. So, and Palmer right now is going to come into the pits for the first time and possibly initiate some other people to hopefully come into the pits, possibly within a lap or 2. And it looks like James Ed is going to follow suit in the Lexus. So, there goes the BMW out for its second stint, the 24 of Palmer, completing his first stop. And something has happened to, I don't know, because what you call Palmer pit or something. Razor Dry Ross Swift. No, so it's just the Audis that are continuing to lead this motor race, and KK Dot still commands the lead of 3.7 seconds over his teammate. Doug Barrow also doing a very, very good job in the 13 Costa Honda and a GT3 to be in P3, and Ben LED5 as well, also another person who has been able to stride as well. And I think Ryra has gone down another position in 6, who's had another incident somewhere on the track as he almost gets collected in the chicane. Oh, and Hair Razor might have been, oh, never mind, I stand corrected right about there. He is all fine. So who's going to come into the pits this time by? Both side Mags Motorworks Audis in the pits. So pit work being done for these cars as Doug Barrow continues on to lead the motor race. They both came in at nearly identical times. Hair Razor in, Swift is in, but Swift though with a impressive amount of fuel. So can he make up the lost time and overcut some of these guys potentially? And he's gonna come, and the Audis have pretty much gone, and Palmer has jumped the 2 Audis, so the undercut has worked in favor of SLM Palmer. Swift taking a bit less fuel than the Audis, but can he try and do something to make up the lost ground? And Ure filing behind his teammate. And these top 3 guys, Doug Barrow, Ben L85, and Ryra, are all anticipated to come in this time by. So Doug Barrow coming to, oh, he's very, very close on field as well. So this is going to be extremely close for the man right there. And I don't think he cut it. Ben L85 will go another lap, as well as Ryra. So Doug Barrow will come into the pits this time by. Oh, I apologize for that. That's not going to happen again. My apologies right about there. So the two Audis will jump the Honda in the pits. A lot of these guys will actually jump the Honda in the pits. And these two right back here, James Head and Hair Razor, bring up the back of the grid in P8 and P9. Swift in 6th. The two Audis now forming up behind the BMW of Palmer, which has done a good job to undercut most of the field and be able to get back up into 3rd. But of course our eyes still pay attention to these two right about here, with Ben L85 and Ryra still setting some laps. They can put less fuel in the car than some of these guys, but I imagine Ben L85 will come into the pits this time by. Don't want to hit the chicane of death, of course, for your in-lap. So now Ben L85 will come into the pits this time by. And Ryra with the pit lane cut, and he's going to get a 5-second time penalty for him, unfortunately. So, not a good action right out there for Ryra, unfortunately. So, that's going to be another penalty going away for him. Palmer will move into the lead of this race. Putting a lot of fuel in the car so we can be able to stretch to the end. Ben L85 hopping out in 4th, and he will be looking to hopefully try and gain some ground in this race, especially on the fact that he does have fresh fuel, fresh rubber as well, just like everyone else. So, Doug Barrow, who had pretty much been up top in the top 3, he will come out. He's in 6th now, but he is trying to gain some lost ground, of course. Aboard now with the Audi of KK Dot, who can only pretty much watch Palmer at the moment. Hopefully try and force a mistake a little bit. Hopefully rise the pressure a little bit with his teammate right behind him. So, on board the Audi of Ure, and hopefully try to have something happen for these three guys. Oh, was that a mistake made by SLM Palmer? Yes, it is, and it's going to allow KK Dot to sneak up into the lead, and also another Audi in front as well. And that's 2 positions lost for SLM Palmer in the BMW. And is that? Oh, and that's a massive con hit right there by Ure. Once again in the chicane. Oh, and thankfully. Oh, and that's a big hit for Swift, who unfortunately got collected as well. And once again, Ure, for the second time this race, has been collected in the chicane, and that time it looked a lot more dramatic, and unfortunately it ghosted for Ben L85, but not for Swift. So, and unfortunately Swift had nowhere to go that time by. And that looked very, very scary indeed for Ure. And the damage as well on the Audi, oh my god, all the scrapes and everything like that. Just, and unfortunately this is going to hold up Swift massively as well. And this, if Palmer can keep his position as is, he can easily sneak back his way into the championship lead after today. So TGIS says, can you clarify Ure's damage as an engine? Engine damage? Yes, I can say that. Yes. Actually, there's another term we Americans like to say when something is damaged or completely knackered. We like to call it completely effed. So it's just that's just something we like to call it. Obviously, when a car basically has too much damage. We usually do it for just sarcastic purposes, but you know. But all of a sudden, Ure, who caught back up to the field after his first incident in the wall, has got a massive tall order to get back up to the top of the field. And fortunately, Swift was collected in that incident as well. So, and Ryrod has been gifted some life back into this race as he moves on to 5th, Doug Barrow into 4th, and surprisingly, Ben L85 in 3rd. So this would be a very good day for him in the office, and Ben L85 can hold on to this 3rd place podium. And it would be, let me see if I can go back to here, yes. And this would be Ben L85's first podium of the season if he can hold this up, if he can hold up here. And surprisingly, the one person to not put a foot wrong this whole race is K&K Dot. He has done an immaculate job in the Sisters Side-Max Motorworks Audi. Once again, like I said, Ure having to make a very, very tall order up in that primary Audi to hopefully try and gain some form of points at least. Oh, with both of those cars, with Doug Barrow and Ryrod slapping the chicane on the slapping the outside chicane. Outside chicane wall, I meant. There's no such thing as outside chicane. It's a bit of a lag spike for me in there, right there, unfortunately. And K&K Dot still continuing to lead the way away in the 0-4 by a whopping 4.5 seconds over the BMW of Polymer. On board now the Mercedes of Swift. Of course, he hasn't had the best of luck today at Dragon Show, which is of course that doesn't really particularly suit these front long engine bay cars. Because of their long wheelbase. But of course, Swift doing everything he can in his power to try and make up lost time indeed. Oh, and Swift getting a foot wrong. And Ure having to brake check himself a little bit to not ram into the back of the Mercedes of Swift. And an inside movement by Ure. Can he force one down to the inside? No, not this time by. But Swift's overdone it and drove it into the braking zone for the final corner. And it's going to allow Ure to get right alongside of him. Oh, they barge wheels into one another. But Swift doing the absolute defending work that he can absolutely muster out of the Mercedes. 6.2 liter V8 versus 5.2 liter V10. And the 5.2 liter V10 is going to come out on top of that scrap, and Ure back up into 6, but Ure gets it all squirrely, and Swift immediately right back up in front. So this is quickly becoming a race of attrition for a lot of these guys, and we only have 27.5 minutes to go of this motor race. And Ryra now having to charge behind Doug Barrow, and Doug Barrow's going to try and do the best he can to defend on the inside of the Lamborghini. Can he force one wide out of Doug Barrow? Nothing doing there as of yet, but Ryra, he's going to force the issue. Oh, he's going to quickly close him up as much room. He's going to limit Doug Barrow's racing room. Oh, and he gives him a little tap, I think. So you can see the flick of the lights that Doug Barrow wasn't happy about that one. Oh, and Ryra getting completely sideways indeed. And Doug Barrow's still flashing the lights. So you can tell he definitely did not like that. He definitely didn't like the move that he did, that Ryra did on Doug Barrow. So, and something has happened to the BMW of Palmer, because Ben L85 all of a sudden in the Supra GT3, Toyota Supra GT3 is up into second place. So this is an impressive drive for the German here. If he can try and score his first podium of the season and leapfrog from 7th in the championship. Oh my goodness me, 2 wheels off the ground, off that Lamborghini. And once again, Ryra is on an absolute charge right about now to try and get back in the lead. And we missed it, but Ure back ahead of Swift, and Swift once again having another difficult time in that Mercedes. He just cannot seem to find the matching pace of some of these mid-engine cars and be able to capitalize, but he's doing everything in his power in the 95 Mercedes to at least try and get back up there. TIJS says, can you look at fuel? So I'm going to say which cars, so I can be able to run down a list of cars that need fuel looking, obviously. So we can quickly run you down with all the cars here. K&K Dot, pretty good on fuel, still, I want to say third of a tank still to go, and he can probably pit later than the final 20 minutes. He can probably pit with like 15 to go if he's even lucky enough. Ben L85, he stretched that gap to a fair bit, and he overcut it on the field on that pit strategy. And I'd say he's about like 20 to 25 liters of fuel, 20 to 25% of fuel left in that Toyota Supra GT3. So I imagine he will come in, I'd say within a couple laps time. Palmer though, same fuel as Ben L85, so I imagine Palmer will try and race Ben L85 to the end of this race. Ryra though, with an impressive half a tank still, just under half a tank in that Lamborghini. So Ryra is absolutely charging. He's 10 seconds off of the leader, which is K&K Dot in the Cymax Motorworks 04 Audi. But Ryra has a lot of fuel to push, and he is setting fast laps at 37.3, and that is a quick lap in itself. Doug Barrow, also with a quarter of a tank, probably on the same strategy as K&K Dot as well, but can try and stretch it out a little bit more. Uri now, just over a quarter of a tank. Oh, he's knackered the exit of that chicane wall, and Swift is going to be right up on him now, and he's easily going to get the pass done right now on that Audi in the Mercedes. Swift now at a quarter of a tank. And I imagine he's going to try and make it to the end when he pits soon. James Head will definitely have to come in soon as his fuel cannot supplement the racing right there. So James Head will still come out, or no, I'm sorry, not come out, will stay out, is what I meant to say. And on the red now, he might have to pit soon. And Hairraiser might have to be thinking the same thing as well. So there are your fuel strategies right about there for TIJS. And the gap now 5 seconds over Ben L85 that KK Dot has. And Ryra has moved up into third, and I imagine that is because I'm assuming Palmer has either made A, an incident somewhere on the track, or B, is just fuel saving. So sector 2 right now, let's see what his last sector time was. 33, 31, so now he's had pretty good sector times all around. But Ryra's forced some mistakes somewhere, and it's going to allow Palmer to pass with ease once again. So, James Head will come in. Hairraiser, I imagine, will come in. And a lot of these guys have to come in as well. And Palmer is going to... Oh, this is going to be very, very dicey for Palmer indeed. I think Palmer will run out of fuel this lap. This is going to be extremely close. He's got to have that fuel mode wick up to 6.5 at this rate if he's going to try and make it to the pits on his own power. James Head will come in for his final stint, for his final stop. Hairraiser will follow in. And Hairraiser and James Head will go out for their last remaining stints. And Palmer now is on absolute fuel saving mode at the moment because right behind him is the Honda NSX GT3 of Doug Barrow, and he is rapidly closing in at an alarming rate. And he goes wide, barely. Telling Palmer to save fuel is the radio call right now, as Doug Barrow passes him with ease, and Yuri, I imagine, is going to pass him with no problem as well. Oh, this is going to be extremely close for Palmer right now if he can make this fuel window. Ben L85 will come into the pits for his last stop, as KK Dot will continue on for one more lap. Ryrock can just go for at least 3 to 5 more laps. That's how much fuel he's got in the car. Palmer will come in just on the nick of time. Swift will come in this lap to try and undercut on the leaders. Yuri will stay out. Doug Barrow will stay out. Doug Barrow's picked up a penalty for somewhere, so this is going to allow Yuri to easily close back right on up and to try and stay right with him. So Ben L85 is out on track. So Swift now good to the end. Palmer full tank to the end at the expense of Swift. So not all is lost for the Mercedes driver. So these two, unfortunately, of James Head and Hairraiser, they still have an individual race of their own, but unfortunately their day might be done apiece. 0% fuel at the pit entry. Yes, of course I was. Yeah, he did have 0% fuel at the end of the this stint. KK Dot, I imagine, will come in this time by Doug Barrow as well, and as well as Yuri. So first, second, first, third, and fourth will make it in. KK Dot making sure he makes the pit commitment line. And of course, fuel going in. Ryra is actually going to come in this time by. So, and Doug Barrow and Yuri will follow suit. So this is going to be an interesting strategy call for a lot of these guys. Can Ryra try and jump any of these guys on the pit cycle? That will be the big question here. Yuri and KK Dot need a lot more fuel in those Audis. And KK Dot has stayed out in front. And Ben L85 is right there with him. So the battle for first, not far from over. Ryra in third. Doug Barrow in fifth now. As Swift now is jumping these guys, and he's got the undercut. And the undercut on Yuri has worked especially. So Yuri losing a lot of time to Swift. And the undercut made by Palmer has not worked out in his favor. So unfortunately, for a lot of these guys, so for the top three in the championship, Palmer, Swift, and Yuri, this is going to be an absolute table topper of a race for the top three in the championship, and it's going to allow some of these guys below to maybe sneak back up into the championship hunt here. And as well as James Head, who's way down the order in 8th. Doug Barrow might be sneaking back his way up. And he's applying the pressure to Swift now. So you can see within the rear window of rear windshield of the Mercedes, the Honda NSX GT3 is not letting a grudge go between these two cars. So TIGS says, remember, everyone has to use mediums. Was discussed already. We do not have to use mediums, so it has been discussed already. So like I said, they're not necessary to have, but they're there, but they're not needed. You don't need to run them. So, and Swift is feeling a lot of pressure right now from the guy behind in fifth, I should say. I'm sorry. And Doug Barrow still got 3 times penalty, so he's going to have to serve it at some point. So the leader, Ken Kidot, still doing a good job. And Ben L85 is still within a second and a half of the race leader. And Ben L85 with an impressive drive in the Supra. He's had some difficult luck with the Lexus, unfortunately. But I think with the switch over to Toyota, it is going to work wonders for him, obviously. So, Ryra in third, Swift with the, and both cars absolutely sideways out of the chicane. Swift fourth, and Doug Barrow rounding out the top 5. And Doug Barrow has done an impressive job to get to where he's at right about now. He's got a lot more work to do going forward. Yuri now in the 77 in 6th, as he's 15 seconds off of the leaders right about now. And I unfortunately think that he is not going to be making any forward progress after having 2 separate incidents into the chicane. And Palmer, unfortunately for him, I do not think the undercut worked initially, so he might be saving the fuel at this rate. And as for James Head and Hannah Racer, it's been quite difficult days for him, for both these guys. And hopefully they move on forward with Monza as the next event. So K Dot once again through the chicane. He's doing a very, very good job indeed. So let's take a look back at this battle for 4th. place. Swift now doing a good job as he almost gets collected by the chicane, which is something he does not want to do again after getting involved with Uray's incident earlier on. Guys are 7 seconds behind, or 8 seconds behind Ryan, but 12 seconds off the leader of K&K Dot. On board now once again with the Toyota Supra GT3 of Ben L85. And you can see the Audi just right there, the lead, super close. The gap now just 2-ish seconds for both ends of Ben L85. And he's got about 12.5 minutes to go to try and get somewhere with these gaps. And Ben L85 is just on absolute edge right now with this car. The gap now for Ryra to Ben L85 is slowly but surely decreasing. This is now 1.6 seconds right about now. Swift now stretching the gap between him and Doug Barrow. 1.3 seconds is the gap. And Doug Barrow still with that penalty to serve. And this is allowing Uray to slowly but surely catch up in the Sidemax Motorworks 77 Audi. On board now with the Honda NSX GT3 of Doug Barrow. You see right there, just trying to catch up to Swift as much as he can. It's been quite the season so far for these Honda NSXs, where they've had an up and down season right now. They had a good up at the beginning of the season, but now unfortunately I think they're having their down right about now, and hopefully they do have their strides coming in later in the season. So hopefully they can be able to race for Honda, and of course hopefully challenge for some race wins. The gap now between Ben L85 and Ryra is quickly closing up. Just the amount of commitment that Ryra throws into the chicane is very quick indeed. And he's also setting some fast laps of the race, a 1:37.1 for Ryra. So immaculate pace for this gentleman right about here in the Lamborghini, as he will try and make up some lost, as he is going to try and make up lost ground as usual. Looking back now towards the Lamborghini from the perspective of Ben L85 in the Toyota. So this battle for second place still not far from over, with under 9 minutes to go in this race. Gap now last time, gap was 7.7 seconds, was 7/10 of a second last time. Now it is now half a second. So you can tell Ryrot is on an absolute charge right about now for second, maybe even a potential race win, because Ben L85 is 2 seconds behind K Dot, who has, for the most part, just like the Pro-Am race, has controlled this Pro-Am race. Not much has changed for the leaders, but pretty much everyone else down from K Dot. It has been quite the dramatic race that we were not expecting here in the Straight Line Motorsports GT3 Championship. Once again. So the gap now back up to 0.7 of a second. Right now, Ben L85 has slightly worse tires in the front from Ryra, but Ryra has worse rear tires than Ben L85. And these guys are on identical fuel strategies, so this is going to be very, very close for both these guys to see what they could do within these cars. Like I said, again, you need a lot of commitment through that chicane to be able to make a 3-1 unscathed. And something has happened to the Honda NSX of Doug Barrow, because all of a sudden he's way off, he's way down the Mercedes from Swift. And he's allowed Swift to get by, and he's allowed Ure to get by. So I think Palmer is going to have to quickly get by him if he wants any chance of point salvation for this race to stay within the championship leaders. Now keep in mind that Ure from Fuji is leading this championship by 1 point over Palmer. Palmer needs to get past Doug Barrow to minimize the gap, the deficit from Ure, who is currently 2 positions higher than Palmer is. And then Swift is another position higher than Ure, so he will look to take some serious points. And all things considered, this will be Swift's and Palmer's first non-podium finishes of the season. So, and Palmer has attended every single race of the season, so this would be dramatically huge for him in this race. So, and then the same applies for Swift, who has only done 2 out of 3 races this season, discounting this one, but he's got to do a whopping drive to get by Ben L85, who has now been passed by the Lamborghini of Ryra. So Ben L85 unfortunately has been passed, but Swift now will be on a tear for that race. And also keep an eye out for the fuel. And Ure has picked up some more damage, so I'm assuming he's got another hit with the wall, assuming with the chicane out of the exit of the chicane, the outside wall. And unfortunately the day is just getting tougher and tougher for the Spaniard in the 77. So like I said, the day has been getting more and more difficult for Ure as the championship leader, but if he can hold on to 5th place and minimize the points deficit that he will too suffer alongside his championship rivals, then of course positions gained is where the points will be gained as well. So Swift now 9.4 off of Ben L85, and Ben L85 is losing a lot of time to this man, Ryra. And Ryra is also losing a lot of time to K Dot, who we haven't tracked a lot of in this race because of the fact that he's been leading it pretty much since with 45 minutes to go. So it's basically a repeat of the same race we saw last time here in the Pro-Am race, but it is going to, it was a lot more chaotic and more up and down the order this time because of the fact that it was pretty much more dramatic from the get-go anyway, so. And Doug Barrow still that 5/10 penalty, which he has to serve by the end of this race. That's not good news for him. And Hairraiser has gotten past the Lexus of James Head, so James Head, with a 143 a couple laps ago, has had a terrible lap somewhere. So we're not sure what happened. Lap 30 for Doug Barrow, or not Doug Barrow, Hairraiser. He's had a 39.8, so I'm assuming another bad lap this as well. No, I stand corrected. So back up to the front now, where K&K Dot is also setting some fastest laps of the race. He's setting his personal fastest laps of the race of 37.5, and Ryra is on an absolute tear right now to try and gain his first win of the season. Keep in mind, the top three on the podium have yet to win a race this season. Actually, I stand corrected. K&K Dot, NLE5, Ryra. Yeah, the top three of this race. We'll be looking at a podium here, and K&K Dot will just get this lap and one more, and Ryra, this might be their final lap of the race. So if Ryra wants to challenge for a first place, he has to be on absolute Lewis Hamilton mode and turn the wick up to 0.5 for fuel lean right about now. So there is no 0.1. He would have to turn it up to 0.5 if he wants to try and get back at K&K Dot. So the white flag theoretically would be up by now. Oh, and Swift is going slow massively, and he might have to be saving a bit of fuel. He's trying to defend what he can. He knows this is the last lap of the race, and Uray's going to pass him with ease. And this is not good news for Swift, who is third in the championship. And the day is getting more and more difficult for Swift as Uray will get by him for fourth place. And Doug Barrow, he might have some life in him for a top 5 finish. So we will continue to monitor this as well. Ooh, was there a spin right about there? I couldn't tell. And the same can be said for Palmer, who might have to save the fuel, Hairraiser as well, and James Head as well. So this is very, very peculiar for a lot of these guys. K&K Dot, he will get another lap, but unfortunately for Ryra, it will not be another lap as he will come across for P2 and NLE5 for third. These two guys getting their first podium of the season, and Uray with a strong recovery drive after having 2 incidents in the chicane, getting it back up into P4. What a good day. And Swift will hold on for P5. And Doug Barrow for P6. I couldn't see him right there. And Palmer will take his first non-podium finish of the season in 8th, unfortunately. Hairraiser and James Head, unfortunately for them, they had another tough race as per usual. Hairraiser had nothing for this race, unfortunately for him, as he will come across the line in P8 and James Head in P9. So a lot of, and Swift as well will finish off the podium for the first time this season. But we turn our eyes now to the man who has yet to finish this race and take the checker flag with him as well. He withstood a lot of pressure in this race and was able to capitalize where everyone else made their mistakes. And of course, he will be very, very ecstatic indeed as he will not only take his first podium of the season, but he will also come across the finish line for the first time to win this season. K&K Dot in the 04 wins at Dragon Trail Seaside in the 04 Side Max Motorworks Audi R8 LMS. And obviously, what a race for this gentleman right here. And of course, he did it when everyone else around him was struggling quite substantially. There are your race results right there, and we will get our podium finishers in. And so, let me just make sure that the live stream is still on. Okay, it's still on. Okay, so we will invite our podium finishers in the group chat, or in the party. So Ben L85, Ryra, and where is it? K&K Dot as well for the first time this season. That was a very, very chaotic race to the start. Master Swift says, is it that much to ask for someone to get off the racing line when they crash at the chicane and are getting going again? Cost me 10 seconds. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think there was much that Ure nor Swift could have done right there, unfortunately for him. But obviously, racing incidents are what they are, and if they are penalized, they will be penalized. But we do have the podium finishers coming in, and then we have our first podium finisher in the hands of Ben L85, who had come in for third. It was a very difficult start to the season for you, but this race, you bounce back and you recover. Ben L85 with your first podium of the season. How are you feeling right about now? Yeah, it looked like you were having a bit of a difficult time with the Lexus. What was kind of besides the straight line speed factors of that the Toyota has? What else was the deciding factor for you to switch over to the Toyota out of the Lexus? So, of course, a very, very tough and hard-fought podium for Ben L85, obviously. Basically withstanding a lot of the action and drama that had unfolded in the race. Don't think Ryra is in the party yet, but don't fret. We will move on to our race winner in the hands of K&K Dot with his first win of the season. Both Side Max Motorworks Audis taking their first wins of the season. For last week, it was Ure at Fuji, and this time it is you, K&K Dot, here today at Dragon Trail. How are you feeling right about now after that race?
Really good. Really good to finally get a win. It's been quite a lot of time since I haven't got a good result. So yeah, really happy.
And of course, I did see the contact between you and your teammate Ure out of, I want to say the final quarter at the beginning of the race, obviously. Of course, yeah. There was a lot of chaos that was happening at the beginning of the race, obviously. And I think there was a lot of chaos happening for pretty much most of the race. I think, what was the key for you to try and basically get away from all that chaos and pretty much hold on to the lead for basically 2/3 of the race at least?
Well, mainly staying calm because, there was a lot of battling between myself, Raya, and Yera. So yeah, it was just about staying calm. And I think it was a bit of luck as well because, after I managed to get like a couple of seconds between myself and the second, they got themselves into a battle, so they started losing a lot of time. So yeah, it was just a combination.
And I do have one final question for you, K&K Dot, as well. Was there anything different that you could have done today in terms of a perfect race strategy, or did you think that with all the chaos that you pretty much were kind of just, kind of given a lead and then pretty much you just did your business, obviously. Was there anything you kind of done differently, that you would have kind of done differently, or do you think you could have taken the race that you did today, obviously?
Well, I can only think of one thing, which is on the first stint, I had to pit a bit earlier than I expected. You know, I usually try to pit every third of the race, so every 20 minutes, but my fuel wasn't enough to get another lap. So if I had realized that before, I would have probably saved a little bit of fuel to get just another more lap on the first stint. But that's it. You know, I think it was just a nearly perfect race for me.
Well, of course, it was a near perfect race for you as usual, and of course, a lot of drama and controversy behind you and behind Ben 85, and as well for your race, Swift and Palmer, who for Swift and Palmer finished off the podium for the first time this season. So a lot of points for you guys, of course, to get back up into the championship fight. But as for that race, I think I think that was kind of like Suzuka tier in terms of, I'd say, a lot of action. But as for the race coverage for everybody, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you did enjoy these set of Straight Line Motorsports GT3 Championship races. I have been hosting commentary for today's set of races. STM_RRDZ, all podium finishers here today. K&K Dot, Ben 85, and Ryra, all first podium finishers of the season, and K&K Dot grabbing his first win of the season. I hope you enjoyed today's broadcast, and we will see you guys next time.